What's up, guys? Tonight we're going to talk about decision making. I feel very comfortable talking about decision making because throughout my career I've had multiple opportunities to be in positions that required a significant amount of decision making, and my confidence in decision making has afforded me all the opportunities that I've been given. Since the early days as a product engineer, stemming from a mechanical engineering degree, I was given the opportunity to lead several product lines for an OEM of road construction equipment. And since then, I've leveraged that into leadership opportunities within the same business, and rounding my third year anniversary in leading a small manufacturing facility down here in the South of approximately about 60 people. So my job for the last 3 years has primarily been making decisions. So I'm going to give you a couple insights about how I do that, and ultimately at the end tell you a way that you can improve at decision making. So the first of which is you need to collect information. It's the very first step is determining any relevant information, like the closest information in the realm of the decision that you need to make, and to determine all the possible options. A lot of times what we're going to have is maybe one option, two options. Typically that's not all the possible options that there are. And if you just run with what you have, you could be leaving some of those behind. You could be missing the opportunity of an option that could be the perfect one. And the way that I usually typically do this is I consult experts. I consult experts not necessarily just in the decision area that I need to make. I consult every expert I can talk to about it. Anybody that might have an opinion for the idea of introducing options. Just because an option is presented does not mean that I'll go with that option. It needs to be evaluated. It needs to go through the rest of these criteria or this process that I go through when I'm going to make a decision. Additionally, consulting the experts directly in the area of your decision should be obvious. That's going to be a key area. They're going to tell you what they think is the best way to move forward. But in a couple points here, there's going to be a key area where we need to evaluate what makes the decision the right one, or what are the critical factors for us making the decision. Typically, this comes down to one of three things. This is time, money, or energy. And I look at energy as just resources in general. Is if you have a team that can do work for you, or if you contract a team or outsource a team, in all regards, you need to be able to have the resources available. And those are typically going to be one of the three areas of critical decisions, right? How much time do I have? How much money do I have to spend? And how many resources do I have available? These are three critical areas that you're going to want to evaluate and determine which is the most important. Either you're short on time, you're short on money, you're short on both of those things, but you have a ton of resources. These are the critical areas that typically decisions revolve around. Additionally, the next step is to calculate your margin of error, or the outcome impacts. If things don't go according to plan, what are the possible negative consequences of that, right? And can you live with them? This is worst case thinking in a manner of speaking. And understanding the ones that you cannot live with, what actions or what tactics can I use in order to shrink the negative side of that? So how can I make them less bad? How can I make them manageable, survivable in a sense? So that way I know that worst case scenario, when I pick an option, this is what could happen and this is what we'll do if it does. Or this is what could happen and I can live with that. That's not that bad. This provides you with confidence relative to your decision, because you know that even if it's not the way that you plan it to be, if the decision does not ultimately bring the outcome that you want, you're still going to be okay. So these are the couple key areas, right? Understanding those critical factors, understanding all the options, and then weighing them out. Which ones play across those critical factors the way that's going to satisfy what you need in the best way. Looking at the worst outcomes, these are the reassurance. This is what builds your confidence in a decision. And what I think is, typically speaking, you're going to find that there's no just perfect solution. In fact, usually there's 1 to 2 that are going to be really neck and neck. And you need to come up with what is then going to be the least bad decision, and out of those 2 typically. What has the least negative side effects or negative possible outcomes if it doesn't go the right way? Or which ones are the most manageable provided it doesn't go the right way? This is how I make decisions. Now, that's simplifying this down with 0 context. So the biggest thing that you need to understand is that decision making is a skill. And in my experience, it's one that people fail to exercise pretty regularly. The average person just refuses to make any decision of consequence because it might have negative blowback. But decision making is also one of those differentiators. Because most people don't want to do it, if you start to develop a skill set and start to put yourself out there, take the risks relative to making decisions, and start to gain the skill of decision making, it will start to set you apart. It's very similar to being a great communicator. It's one element of that, in my opinion. Decision making is a skill just like any other. You need to exercise it, to practice it, and to improve. So if you use this framework, small little framework, couple ideas, and start small, don't go out and make a decision that might sacrifice your whole team or an entire project or anything like that. Start small with decisions that are within your scope of work and within your area of responsibility, and see how it goes. See and document, write down, just the same way as you journal anything, right? Love legal pads. Document your entire thought process, right? Show your work, so that way you can come back to it later and understand, hey, this is an area where I could have done a little bit better. I could have done a little bit more work. I could have determined a couple more options. I could have consulted a couple more people. I evaluated these critical factors wrong. Whatever it might be, you get to go back and kind of edit that and understand for the future, you're refining your process and you're refining your understanding of decision making. Hopefully this helps. Typically speaking, I have been fortunate enough to never make decisions that had catastrophic outcomes. And I think I would attribute that to understanding the margin of error and the negative outcomes. Like I said, sometimes the best decision is going to be the least bad one. And searching for the perfect solution is typically not as good as using the most functional solution you can find that you can implement with the least amount of time, money, or energy. If you have one that has limited resources and is easily reversed, or you can easily recover from, I advise making that decision because you'll learn very quickly and it might take you in the right direction. I hope this helps. You can't lose if you don't quit.